Welcome to the Biology Brief channel. We are continuing with our chapter Sexual Reproduction of Flowering Plants, third part. This belongs to Plus 2 Biology. In this class, we are going to discuss about pollination, different types of pollination and different pollinating agents, then outbreeding devices, and at last, artificial hybridization. Let us move. In the previous class, we have studied that in angiosperms, male gametes are produced inside pollen grains. Meanwhile, female gametes are produced inside embryo sac, which is the female gametophyte. Inside embryo sac, female gamete or egg is developed. Inside pollen grain, male gametes are produced. Both these gametes are non-motile in nature. Therefore, they have to bring together for effecting fertilization and formation of zygote. How this is possible? The answer is pollination. What is pollination? Then the transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma, which is the receptive part of pistil. Transfer of transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of pistil is called pollination. For pollination to be effected, there may be many pollinating agents. We have to depend many pollinating agents or foreign agents for effecting this pollination. Then, what are the different types of pollination? First, there are three types of pollinations, namely autogamy, geitonogamy, and xenogamy. Let us see one after one. Autogamy. What is autogamy? It is the transfer of pollen from anther to stigma of same flower. The transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of same flower is called autogamy. Here there is no genetic variability. The genetic constitution of pollen grain and stigma are same. So, by autogamy, purity is maintained generation after generation, no genetic variability. That is why Gregor Mendel used pea plants. This is a picture of pea plant, Pisum sativum, pea plants for his hybridization experiments. Because pea plants are actually autogamous flowers. They produce pure breeding plants generation after generation. Here, perfect autogamy is a rare one, because flowers are exposed. During opening, flowers are exposed, stamens are exposed, and there is chance for other pollens to come to the stigma of the opened flower. The next one is geitonogamy. What is geitonogamy? It is the transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of another flower of same plant. That is geitonogamy. Transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of another flower of same plant. Here the plant is the same one. That means functionally this is equivalent to cross-pollination, because pollen grains are transferred from one flower to another flower. So functionally it is cross-pollination, but it is same plant, so there is no difference in genetic constitution. So genetically it is, or physiologically it is self-pollination. That is a peculiarity of geitonogamy. Then the third one, xenogamy. Here the pollen grains are transferred from anther to the stigma of another flower of different plant, but two plants belongs to same species. That means xenogamy or cross-pollination is the transfer of pollen to the stigma of another flower of another plant belongs to same species. Here, the transfer of pollen grains between two different plants. So there may be genetic difference in their constitution and possible for genetic variable and new variation in characters. Therefore, nature prefers cross-pollination because genetic variability is attained due to cross-pollination, and nature discourages autoimmune or self-pollination. Here is the second picture of sunflower, where we can see an insect pollinating agent here performs synogamy or cross-pollination. That is the picture. Let us move. In some plants, some special plants, namely Viola, Oxalis, and Commelina, they produce two types of flowers: chasmogamous flowers and cleistogamous flowers. What are chasmogamous flowers? These are normal flowers. Normal flowers produced during the season. Here, this is the picture of Commelina. Picture of Commelina. These are chasmogamous flowers. These are normal flowers produced during the season, which are opened and they are meant for cross-pollination. Unfortunately, they do not undergo cross-pollination. After the season, some special flowers are produced which do not open. After the season, special flowers are produced which do not open. Cleisto means closed, do not open, and they undergo self-pollination. These are cleistogamous flowers, unopened cleistogamous flowers meant for self-pollination. So, sure seed setting can be attained due to the formation of cleistogamous flowers. Then there is a question whether cleistogamy is advantageous or disadvantageous. The answer is it is both advantageous and disadvantageous, because if cross-pollination fails, here cleistogamous flowers undergo self-pollination and there is sure seed setting and production of next generation. What are the disadvantages? Here the cleistogamous flowers undergo self-pollination. So there is no genetic variability due to selfing. That is the disadvantage. Then we already said that there are some agents for pollination. We have to depend agents for undergoing pollination. The agents can be divided broadly into two: abiotic and biotic. Abiotic means non-living, biotic means living. Abiotic, which are the abiotic pollinating agents? Air and water. Biotic pollinating agents are different animals. In the case of abiotic agents for pollination by air or water, there is a chance factor. We cannot predict whether pollination certainly happens or not. There is a chance factor. Sometimes pollination takes place, sometimes the pollen grains are wasted. So, to compensate this uncertainty, there is adaptation in plants. More pollens are produced compared to the number of ovules. Comparing to the number of ovules, more pollens are produced because some are wasted, some cannot be used. So, maximum number of pollens are produced in the case of abiotic pollination. Then, in detail about abiotic pollination, first pollination by wind. If the pollinating agent is wind, we call it as anemophily. In the case of anemophily, we already said more pollen grains are produced. The pollen grains are light-weighted because due to along the air current, they have to be transported. Light-weighted and non-sticky in nature. The anemophily is more common among abiotic uh, pollinating agents, abiotic pollination, more common, anemophily. First of all, the nature of pollen grains. The pollen grains are lightweighted, can be transported along with air, and they are non-sticky. Non-sticky. What about ovules? Only one ovules may be present in each ovary. Ovary contains only one ovule. What about stigma? Stigma, large stigma, branched, branch and hairy also, hairy, because the pollen grain can cling to the hairy stigma. Then, typical example for anemophily is maize plant, corn cob of maize plant. This is the female inflorescence of maize plant. Here we can see long tassels. These long tassels are actually the elongated style and terminal stigma, so that the stigma can easily catch pollen grain from air. Typical example, corn cob or female inflorescence of maize plant. Then about pollination by water. It is a very rare occurrence. About 30 genera undergoes hydrophily, rare occurrence. In example for hydrophilous plants are some hydrophytes like Vallisneria, Hydrilla, sea grasses or Zostera. These are hydrophytes. All hydrophytes are not pollinated by water. All hydrophytes are not pollinated by water. Some hydrophytes like Vallisneria, Hydrilla, Zostera are pollinated by water. Majority of hydrophytes are pollinated by animals. For example, water hyacinth, water hyacinth, water lily, water lily. These are some hydrophytes which are pollinated by animals or insects. Then there is a relationship between water and lower plants. In bryophytes and pteridophytes, the antherozoids or male gametes are motile. They swim along water to reach the egg. Therefore, in bryophytes and pteridophytes, sexual reproduction completed with the help of water medium, water as transport medium. So, the distribution of bryophytes and pteridophytes are limited. They are not present in everywhere. Their distribution is limited due to the availability of water or coolness. Then, typical example for hydrophily are first one Vallisneria. This is the diagram in your textbook of Vallisneria. You can see the female flower emerges on water level, above water or on water level, female flower. This is the male flower. Male flower also present at the top, on the water, on top of the water, and it releases pollen grain in the surface of water to be attracted by this stigma. The stigma is present in the surface of water. Pollen grains are also released in the surface of water. Therefore, hydrophily takes place. In the case of Zostera, seagrass, we know that the longest pollen among angiosperms is produced by Zostera. Here, the stigma is underwater and the pollen grains are also present beneath water, and inside the water there is pollination. That is the case of Zostera. Then, biotic pollinating agents, or the pollinating agents are animals in this case. Here there are various types of animals. Majority are insects, bees, butterflies, ants, flies, beetles. These are major pollinating animals. Bats are there, birds are there. Then some reptiles, garden lizard. Some reptiles are also act as pollinating agents. Then some arboreal rodents. The rodents living on trees are also pollinating agents. And some primates, for example, lemur, like lemur are also act as pollinating agents. This is the major type of pollination. That is pollination by animals is the major type, and it is an active process, and there is surety about seed setting, bringing of fertilization. Then some terms are uh, entered here. Pollination types by biotic agents. If the biotic pollinating agent is insect, insects are the most dominant pollinating agents. Among animals, insects are most dominant. Majority pollination is done by insects, and such pollination is called entomophily. Then, if whether ants are act as pollinating agents in acacia, like acacia, ants are the pollinating agents. Then the pollination is called myrmecophily. If bats, as in musa, bats act as pollinating agents, the pollination is technically called chiropterophily. Sometimes snails, as in areca plant, snails are pollinating agents, and the pollination is termed malacophily. Birds are also pollinating agents, such as hummingbird, sunbird. Such small birds act as pollinating agents, and if the pollination is performed by birds, it is called ornithophily. You can collect various pictures regarding these different types of pollinations. Then, what are the details regarding pollination by animals? Pollination by animals is called zoophily. Zoophily. We already said that insects are the most dominant animals that pollinate flowers. In the case of zoophily, various flowers are specifically, the corolla of various flowers are specifically adapted for pollination by the insects. So there is adaptation relationship among pollinating agents and flowers in the case of zoophily. If the flowers are small in size, they may group together in the form of inflorescence, so that insect can pollinate several flowers in a single visit. Then sometimes the pollinating agents are rewarded by the flower or by the plant. The flower gives pollen and nectar as a reward to the pollinating agent. In back, the pollen agents pollinate the flower. Some plants give safe place for laying eggs for the pollinating agents. For example, yucca, amorphophallus. In the case of amorphophallus, large, tall inflorescence, 6 feet or height from the soil, and provide the inflorescence being large, provide enormous space for insects to lay their eggs. In the case of yucca, there is a special moth, yucca moth. They are mutually benefit. So the relationship between amorphophallus and insects and yucca moth is an example for mutualism. Mutualism is an ecological relationship where both partners are benefited. So zoophily in general is a ecological relationship between plants and animals. So these are the peculiarity regarding zoophily. Then moving to outbreeding devices. If we examine, majority of flowering plants are bisexual in nature. That means both androecium and gynoecium are present in single flower. Therefore, there is great chance for self-pollination or inbreeding. Due to continuous inbreeding, the plants show gradual decrease in their vigor or ability or their yield. The superior character is lost gradually due to continuous inbreeding or selfing, and it is called inbreeding depression. Inbreeding depression decreases the yield of a crop plant. In order to prevent or overcome inbreeding depression, the plant have to promote cross-pollination. Plant have to promote cross-pollination and discourage self-pollination. Therefore, there are some devices. The plants have adapted many devices for promoting cross-pollination or encouraging cross-pollination. Let us discuss one by one. Pollen release and stigma receptivity are not synchronized. That means pollen release or pollen maturity and stigma receptivity are not in same time. If both are in same time, there may be self-pollination. Sometimes the pollen maturity takes place first. We call it as protandry. The pollen mature first, the stigma will not mature. Then there is no possibility for self-pollination. Then in some flowers, stigma receptivity comes first, protogyny. Stigma matures first and it receives pollen grain from other flowers. After that, the pollens are matured. So, the differential maturity of stigma and pollen promote cross-pollination. Then, stamens and stigma placed at different places. Sometimes stamens are short, stigma is long, very long. There will not be chance for easy self-pollination. Sometimes pollen grains are directed towards one end. Stigma may be directed to opposite side. They are facing opposite side. So there is no chance for self-pollination. This is another device. Then self-sterility. The pollen of a plant is sterile to that plant. The pollen cannot germinate in the stigma of same plant. That is self-sterility. Or self-incompatibility. It is incompatible in same plant. This is genetic character. Genes are controlling this character. So, when a pollen cannot grow in the same plant, there will not be self-pollination. Cross-pollination is the only way for such plants. Then production of unisexual flowers. Unisexual flower means a flower where either one reproductive organ is present. Male flower. If gynoecium is only gynoecium present, male flower. If gynoecium present, it is female flower. If gynoecium present, it is male flower. But there may be male and female flowers in the case of unisexual flowers.